If you're watching this video and have not attended this session, be sure to scan the QR code, fill out the form to record your attendance. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I know it's few of us here. We're missing a lot of people, but due to the midterms, anyhow, whatsoever, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our fifth session. Or the sixth?
This is the fourth session.
Why does it say second session?
No, this is the second
Oh,
session for the study group.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I see.
So,
put on the mic.
the ones who came last Thursday or the Thursday after that, we had our first introductory session. I believe you were there, right? Yeah. So
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
All right. So quick things to point out. First, we've got the White Desert, which is a cybersecurity competition and convention that's going to take place in the 9th of October, right? And for that, if you guys want to participate in it, there will be a CTF competition. So if you're interested, I suggest you register. And we're gonna send a message in the group for those who've registered to send us their details. So just we know who registered and who's not from the university. Afterwards, we're gonna take the step of giving you guys comprehensive trainings for those to prepare you for the CTFs. Mostly they're gonna be try hack me rooms and sections that you guys are supposed to complete. Once you complete, we're gonna have you represent the university in these competitions. We're not expecting to get the first place. I mean, it's very competitive because we've got people from other universities that have a good background in cybersecurity and CTF machines. So at least we're expected to participate just to have fun, maybe rank the 3rd or 5th or 100th place. At least just to have fun.
as long as you try something.
As long as you try something,
Exactly,
yeah. And the time limit is a constraint for us since we have 19 days left to prepare for the competition. So it's not a lot to do here.
Yeah.
Anyhow, there is also the NSCA, National Cybersecurity Agency. They're also preparing a convention.
Cyber drill.
Cyber drill, yes,
Cyber drill, yeah.
cyber drill. So the university is going to select 10 students from the cybersecurity major, where they're going to also represent the university. We're also going to mention this in the group. So if you're interested, just make sure to fill out the form in the group that we're going to send out. And yeah, that's about it for the news. On to the second session, which is about the cybersecurity plus certification and security controls with Almabrouk.
Okay. Bismillah. So, obviously, this is the second session, and we will start covering the first domain. So, if you remember in the first session, I showed you all of the cover topics on the Security Plus. So, we will start with the first few topics, which are about security controls. So, I will be covering what are the security controls, why do we need them, and what are the categories and types of security controls. And, at the end, I will have 5 questions just to test your knowledge, if you guys understood everything or not. And yeah, let's begin. So if you guys are curious, where can I find these objectives? Yesterday, I released an announcement and I uploaded the actual PDF document where you can find all of the cover topics for the Security Plus. So just so you guys can see, I'll be covering here Objective 1.1, and here are the categories that I will be covering and the control types here on the right. Okay, so let's begin with what are security controls? So do you guys have your own definition of what security controls are? Would you like to try? No? Anyone? Okay. Yes.
Security controls are basically steps or procedures to evade or protect from attackers.
Yeah. So basically these are the countermeasures or the safeguards, right? So these are the things that we implement in order to protect against these attacks or against these security risks. So like I said, we implement these security controls to protect systems, data, and resources from security threats. And obviously these security controls, like I showed you in the actual objectives, they're broken down into categories and types. Okay, so what are categories? They're basically where and how we control, where and how we apply these security controls, right? So for example, we might apply them on a server or we might apply them on the network level, right? And the types of security controls dictate the purpose of each security control. So why are we applying this specific security control? What's the purpose? Are we protecting data at rest, data in transit, or data in use? Yep. So why do we need these security controls? Well, like I said, we're defending networks, we're defending systems, and we're defending data, right? And this is very important over here, ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now, the cybersecurity students who are third and fourth year, they have heard the CIA maybe 1 million times now, but it is the foundation of cybersecurity. Literally, it is the foundation, because when you get hired, they will expect you to uphold the confidentiality of data. So, encrypting it, making sure that unauthorized people cannot access this data and cannot view this data, maintaining the integrity of this data. So making sure that the unauthorized attackers cannot alter the data and change it. And we have the availability of data. So making sure that it is accessible 24/7. There are even some companies that when they hire you, they will tell you, we need 99.999% of the data to be available like all of the time. So, and obviously, certain industry standards and regulations will dictate that you need to apply certain security controls, in order to, for example, comply with GDPR and HIPAA and PCI DSS. These are just certain standards and regulations that companies need to comply with. And to comply with them, you need to apply these security controls. And obviously, we are aiming to reduce the impact of breaches and downtime. So by applying these controls, we will have minimized downtime and we will lessen the likelihood of a company having breaches, data breaches. And obviously, we will be ensuring that customers and stakeholders have the confidence when they are dealing with the business. So when customers know that, okay, this company has these certain types of controls implemented, they will be more confident in doing business with us. Okay, so now moving on to the categories of security controls. So as you can see, we have 4 categories. We have technical categories, managerial categories, operational, and physical. So have you guys heard of these categories before? Do you have any idea about them? No? Okay, that's fine, because we're going to cover everything. So let's begin with the first category, which is the technical category. Now, this category is also known as logical security controls. And basically, think of them as any security control that you implement using hardware or software. So, for example, do you guys know what access control lists are? ACLs? Okay, so basically, access control lists, basically, when you create, for example, a folder or file on Windows, you have, for example, read permission, write permission, execute permission, right? So these are called file system access control lists. Now we have another type of access control list known as network access control list, NACLs. So these are implemented to control who is allowed to access the network and who is allowed to, for example, communicate with people inside the network. And obviously we have firewalls, encryption. These two, maybe most of you didn't hear about it, intrusion detection system and intrusion prevention system. So basically, all of these are technical controls, right? Actual software and hardware that we use to protect our systems and data. And also, we have the second type here, which is managerial, also known as administrative security controls. Now, what are these? They're basically documents that guide people's behavior. So, for example, when you join a new company, okay, they will expect you to follow certain policies and certain standards for that company. So basically, these are what we describe as managerial or administrative controls, right? So like I said here, policies, procedures, standards, guidelines, and risk management. Now, maybe you guys are wondering what's the difference between these. Well, policies basically, it's the expected behavior that the company, or it's what the company expects employees to behave like. Like, for example, a policy might be to, like, for example, here, for example, like attendance policy, right? You are, you cannot miss like 15%, right? So this is an example of a policy. And you have the procedures. Procedures are step-by-step instructions to accomplish a certain task. And you have standards. Standards are built on top of guidelines. Now, guidelines, they are, you can say, best practices and advice to comply with the policies and the standards. And we also have risk management. Now, risk management, this is a whole another topic that's in the Security Plus. But just to give you a brief overview, it's, identifying the security risks, like, for example, maybe network attacks, server attacks, right? And we are identifying these risks, and we are coming up with security controls to help mitigate these attacks. Okay, so on to the last two categories. We have operational categories. Now, these are day-to-day activities, right, carried out by people. So if you think, for example, the security guards outside, right, we can classify them as operational security control because they are the ones who check the IDs. They are the ones who do the day-to-day tasks that allow authorized students to enter university and who disallow unauthorized or unauthorized people, right? And also it can include security awareness training, change management, and like I said, the security guards. Now, change management is basically, for example, when you are a cybersecurity professional and you want to implement, let's say, for example, like a new firewall, right? You cannot just go and do that straight away, right? You have to go through an entire change management process. So you have to justify why do you want to do this, right? And what is the cost, right? And what is the expected downtime? So this is known as change management. And we have obviously security awareness training. You guys know what that is. Telling the people that work for our company, don't do this, do that, and training them how to identify the specific security attacks. And moving on to the last category, which is the physical category, right? So basically think of these as any security controls that we implement to protect anything that's physical around us. So, for example, we can say like RFID, which are the what do you call them, access card readers, right? So in order to go into a building, you need to present your access card, right? So this is part of a physical security control, right? And these also include surveillance cameras, external fences, access cards, like I said, and also security guards. Now, you can see here, security guards, they are part of two distinct categories, right? So this is actually possible. You can have one security control that is a part of two separate categories. That's fine. So yeah, so these were all the security control categories. Now here I have 4 images of security controls. And I would like you guys to maybe identify, for example, here, the first one. Do you know what this is? Just out of interest. Firewall, yes. And a firewall would be under which security control category? Logical, yes. Also known as technical, yes, exactly. So what about these here? Security policies. What are they under? Which security control category? Managerial, yes, exactly. What about this one here? Now, this is security awareness training. If you guys didn't know, yeah, it's just a picture of someone teaching. So security awareness. Operation, yes. And the last one, The one that I talked about? Physical, yes, exactly. So you can see, I mean, it's not rocket science. It's pretty easy stuff so far. Now we go, I will discuss the types of security controls. Now we have 6 types of security controls. Now these are types, not categories. So try to make the distinction between them. So we have preventive, detective, corrective, deterrent, directive, and compensating controls. So let's go into each one. So we have the first one. We have the preventive security control type. Now, from the name, when you prevent someone from doing something, you apply a preventive security control, right? So we are stopping incidents from occurring in the first place. So we are not applying this security control after a security breach happens. We are applying it before a security breach happens in order to prevent an attack from happening. So as I mentioned previously, these can be these technical controls, right? So firewalls, encryption, access control lists, right? All of these can be classified under preventive. And our second security type is detective security type. Now, from the name, detective, we apply these security controls to detect if an attack is happening, right? So it identifies incidents in real time or afterwards. So we can identify it or identify the incidents while it's happening or after it happened, right? So this is the objective of detective security controls. Now, like I said, intrusion detection systems from the name, right? These are applied on the network level, can also applied on the host level, right? To detect any security attacks. And we have motion sensors, right? To detect unauthorized people going into a sensitive area. We have SIEMs. This is a challenging one. Do you guys know what SIEMs are? No. Yes. Yes. Perfect. Perfect. Now, do you know what it does? Mm-hmm. Yep.
Devices.
Yep.
From firewall, from router, from endpoint devices that we see.
Exactly. Yep.
Platforms.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I mentioned this in the first session of our club, but security information and event management, like you said, it's basically a tool that will collect all of the logs, right, that is generated by the hosts, by the servers, by the network devices like routers, switches, right? All of these devices have logs. Now, obviously, as a security professional, you cannot go to every single device and check every single log, right? So this tool will simplify everything, and it will collect all of the logs in one tool, so you can so you can basically simply manage and check all of the logs, and all of this is it is an automated procedure, right? So it will automatically check all of the logs and correlate it with databases of known attacks in order to see, okay, is this machine expecting some sort of attack, or is it under attack, right? So that's what SIEM tools do. Now we have surveillance cameras, right? CCTV. And another challenging one, FIM. FIM tools. This is not a common one, or one that's commonly talked about, I mean. So FIM. First word is file, to help you guys. Very close. The last one is wrong. The M. What's the M? File integrity. And think of the word detective. So what are we doing with the files? Monitoring. File integrity monitoring tools, right? So you guys know when you're using Windows, there's something called registry files, right? Registry files, it's basically the configuration of the Windows operating system. It's where the most important files are stored, right? So we can use file integrity monitoring tools to monitor these sensitive files, and we can check if someone has changed them, right? And then based on that, we can say, okay, wait, this file is not supposed to be changed. It's not supposed to be altered, which affects the integrity. That's why it's called file integrity monitoring. And based on that, we can say that, okay, there's an attack happening because this file is not supposed to be changed, right? So this is what file integrity monitoring does. Moving on, we have the next two security control types. Now we have corrective security control types. Now, this basically fixes issues after an incident has occurred. So now we are not preventing the incident from happening. Now we are applying the corrective security controls in order to minimize the damage. Now we are, this is like after the attack happened. We're trying to, for example, like restore data backups, right? Backup restoration. And we are conducting incident response procedures. So, you guys know what incident response is, right? So after the attack happens, or maybe during the attack also, we will do certain actions to contain the damage, right? And disaster recovery procedures. So this is after the actual disaster or after the actual attack. What procedures should we do to get our business up and running again, right? And the fourth one here, deterrent. Deterrent. Now, the word deterrent, right? It means that we are discouraging someone from doing a certain action, right? So, discourages threat actors from acting maliciously. So, we are deterring them, right? And obviously, this can be done with cameras. So, for example, if you want to go and steal something, which I hope you guys don't do, if you see a camera, right, you will not steal. It will deter you. So this is the objective of deterrent controls. Guard dogs, same thing. If you see a guard dog, guarding a sensitive area, you will not go there. Login banners. Now, login banners, this is also another one that's not mostly talked about. Basically, if you are a system administrator and you log into a router, let's say, for example, you will see that in the login page, there is a login banner, right? So it will say, for example, this device is restricted to authorized access only, for example. So this will deter you from launching, for example, a brute force attack or trying to log in when you're not authorized. Yeah. So this is what login banners do. And we have barbed wire. So, this is the wire that they put on top of the fences. So this also deters attackers from jumping over the fences and going into restricted areas. Now we have our last two security control types, directive and compensating. So directive, from the name, we are directing people to perform a certain action, right? So it provides direction or guidelines to ensure proper system usage. So we are developing documents, right? By the way, these, we saw them where and which category? Policies, guidelines, and procedures. Managerial, yes. Yeah, so you can see now, we will certain security controls, they will be part of a category and part of a control type, right? So we can see here, policies, guidelines, and procedures, they are meant to direct people to do a certain action and to provide them best practices. So obviously, by changing their behavior, we will be able to have stronger security because they will not be doing risky actions, right? And the last security control type is compensating. Now, compensating, basically, these are security control types that you can consider them a backup, right? Backup security control. So let's say, for example, we want to implement a next generation firewall, which is a very expensive firewall. Like this costs from $70,000 to $100,000, right? So if we are a small to medium sized business, we cannot afford to pay for a next generation firewall, right? And this is where we will go with compensating control. So this is the next best option, the next best security control. So provides an alternative when the primary control isn't available. So for example, when we are in this situation where we can't go for the best security control, we can use something called layered security. Now, what is layered security? Is my question to you. Yes, so we are using more than one control, exactly. So instead of having a next generation firewall, we can implement firewall capabilities on a router, right? And we can maybe implement, let's say, if there is a cheaper device that's available, we can use, for example, intrusion prevention system, right? So we are putting layers, right? We are putting layers between the attacker and the internal network, right? This is known as layered security, right? This is also sometimes referred to as the onion model, right? So you guys know an onion has multiple layers, right? This is the same thing. It's referred to as an onion security architecture. And also there was another word here, segregation of duties. Now, when you're in a company, obviously different people will perform different actions. You cannot let one guy do everything, right? And this is also from a security perspective. You cannot, for example, let someone take care of a company's financial details and also make him responsible for the payroll or paying employees, because you can see there is a conflict of interest here, right? He might change the financial records and he might pay people more, right, than expected. So this is called segregation of duties. For example, I will make you the guy responsible for the payroll, right? And then I will make another person responsible for managing the financial records. This is segregation of duties. And basically, when we put all of this information together, the security control categories and the security control types, you can see here, let me come here, it's better. We have here the categories on the left, technical, managerial, operational, and physical. And then we have the security control types here, preventive, deterrent, detective, corrective, compensating, and directive. You can see, for example, a technical security control that is preventive will be a firewall. A technical one that will be deterrent is a splash screen. Splash screen is like how can you say it? A screen that will deter people, right? It might have some, let's say, for example, like warning, right? A warning sign or something. This is known as a splash screen. System logs, right? So this is also technical and it's detective because we can detect attacks using logs, like you said, using a SIEM tool also, right? And corrective, so we are backing up data. Compensating, so we, instead of patching an application, we can block, for example, the port that application is listening on, right? So that's compensating. And we can also have directive, like I said, and which is technical also, file storage policies, right? So how long should the storage be there, or how long should we store data for? For example, in the US, I believe there is a security standard or regulation where you have to store tax data for like 7 years or something like that. So yeah, you can see, you can go down the list. For each category, there will be corresponding security control types here. So to conclude what we discussed in this session. Yes, please. Patch. Okay. So for example, when you're using your Windows computer, you can update your Windows operating system. This is known as patching, right? So applying security updates, right? And this is provided by Microsoft, maybe because they identified certain security vulnerabilities in the Windows operating system. So when we apply patching, it means we're basically updating our Windows operating system. That's all that means.
Breach.
Okay. Breach, basically, if a company is under attack, right? Like let's say an attacker gains unauthorized access to a network. A data breach, basically means that he has gained access to the organization's data. This is known as a data breach. So you are accessing a network without being unauthorized. This is a security breach, basically. Yeah. And like I said here, so security controls, they protect the CIA of assets, right? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. By the way, the entire Security Plus course is based on the CIA. I'm telling you from now. Anything that we learn in the Security Plus will always refer to the CIA. This is a very foundational concept, right? Like, for example, when we go to the encryption topics, you will see that we have something called a hashing algorithm. Now, hashing algorithm, some of you, I think, know it. It will maintain the integrity of files, right? So, for example, when we hash a file, it will produce certain string, right? And if we change anything in that file, the string will change, i.e. the hash will change. Right? We will come to this later. We're gonna cover it later, don't worry. And like I said, obviously, we need to implement a layered approach. We cannot rely on one security control, right? So every security control has its advantages and disadvantages. So we can implement multiple security controls, right? So the attacker has to go through multiple security controls to reach his target, which is, by the way, also known as defense in depth. And lastly, remember to always categorize and apply appropriate types for specific security scenarios. Certain security scenarios will require certain security controls to be applied, right? You cannot have one security control that will apply to all security scenarios. So, yeah, basically that is the content of our session. Now, I have 5 questions to ask you guys. So, who would like to answer the first question here? I'm going to read it for you. Security manager regularly reviews access logs to identify any unauthorized attempts to access the system. Now, what is this activity classified under? Which type of control? This activity is classified under which type of control? Yes. Yes, exactly. Detective. Yeah, because the security manager is monitoring the logs, right, for attacks. So he's trying to detect attacks. Yes. So reviewing access logs falls under detective controls as it involves identifying and reporting unauthorized activities. Now, why is it not preventive, right? Because preventive would stop the unauthorized access. But in this case, the unauthorized access already happened. So we're not going to use preventive, obviously. Before the attack happens. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Perfect. Yes. Compensating controls. So obviously, why is it not this? Because compensating is after the attack happens, right? How are we going to correct the problem? This is, sorry. Compensating is the second best option. My bad. That was corrective. Sorry. Compensating is using the second best option, right? And operational controls is the day-to-day activities, right? So like I mentioned, the security guard example. Second question. In an organization, the policy requires employees to wear visible ID badges. Now, this policy is an example of which type of security control? Physical. That is correct. Yes. Yeah. So requiring ID badges is a sorry, it says here directive control. Let's check this. In an organization, the policy requires employees to wear visible ID badges. This policy is an example of which type of security control. See, even I got this wrong now. It's fine because why? We're saying which type, not which category. Yes, it would have been right if it was category, but it's saying type here. So directive, yes, exactly. Yeah. Why? Because it involves a policy directing specific behavior. So we are telling the employees, you guys need to use ID badges. We are directing them to use this, right? And obviously, why is it not physical? It is a physical control, but that's not the type of security control. So because it involves tangible measures to protect assets, technical controls are implemented using technology, and deterrent, basically, they will discourage security violations. And the compensating, like I said, it's not this one because that would be an alternative control. A bit of a more simple question. The use of CCTV cameras in a facility primarily serves as what type of security control? CCTV. What type? What's the type, guys? So, not category type. Yes. Detective. Yes. Yes. So it's not preventive because actually, you know, if you're going to steal something, will the camera prevent you from stealing? It will only detect you, right? So, yeah. So CCTV cameras act as deterrent control by discouraging unauthorized action due to the fear of being watched and recorded. Detective control, they identify the issue after they occur, and preventive control stops security incidents before they happen. Corrective control will rectify, i.e. they will correct the security breach. Fourth question. An organization conducts regular training for employees on security policies and procedures. This is an example of which category? Which category? Is an example of which category? Operational. Operational, yes. Yes, 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 exactly. Exactly, yeah. Yeah. Operational controls include awareness trainings. Technical controls involve hardware and software, right? And managerial, we said policy, standards, and guidelines, right? So you guys understand this, right? If there is any question, please tell me. If any of these questions do not make sense, tell me, please. Because I'm telling you, when you do the Security Plus exam, this is how your exam will be, literally. A scenario, and then 4 multiple choice. What is the scenario? What's the security control? What's the security type and category? All of that. Yeah, I believe we have one more question. How are we doing on time? Okay, that's good. We have 2 minutes. So the last question, encrypting data stored on a company server is considered which type? Not category, type. So we have technical, managerial, operational, and physical. Now, obviously, look, when you are answering these types of questions, do the process of elimination, right? It's not physical, obviously, right? It's not operational, right? Because it's not a day-to-day task. Like you don't encrypt something every day, right? And managerial, no, right? So it must be technical, yeah. 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 Encrypting data is a technical control because it uses technology to protect information. It's not managerial because managerial is strategic documents, policies, procedures, and all that. Operational controls, and it's not operational controls because it is, we are doing daily, because we are not doing daily security tasks, and it's not physical, obviously, because it's not something that we can touch. Encryption is something that's technological. It's not something that we can physically touch. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, guys. And do you have any questions for me before we leave? Good. It's easy, right? It's very easy. Yeah, alhamdulillah, The hard topics will come later, don't worry. Yes, they will come later, don't worry. You will be surprised.